Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and I'm here to show you something I think is really interesting. And if you're into streaming or content creation, you probably will find this interesting too. And that is this tiny little box down here, which is the Roland UVC-02. Now, this is an interesting interface which allows you to connect several different devices to use for streaming purposes. I've used it recently in a behind-the-scenes stream, which is kind of like this, and I am going to be doing more of them in future. And I'm hoping I get to use this device a lot more to present to you some really interesting content, but that's of a similar quality to what I'd normally produce, and hopefully will still be comparable and good in a number of ways, but should give some interesting insights into what I'm doing, but in a way that's really accessible. Now, what you might have noticed is that I'm talking into this blue microphone, which is the Blue Ember, and that is plugged into the Roland, and that in itself is interesting. But also, this thing is supporting HDMI audio and video through the camera in front of me, and that enables me to essentially stream directly from this tiny little box, because it is tiny, it's very, very small. It's smaller than a Go XLR, for example, and yet it delivers interesting audio options. So this is the Blue Ember plugged directly into that control box and with a noise cancellation setting on it. Now I'm going to go into the software a bit later on, but I didn't have to do any tweaks to this microphone, essentially. The software automatically allowed me to present this with a really fantastic audio that this mic's known for. I've also tried the Rode pod mic on it, and that didn't work as well, but I think that is a problem with the microphone and not the setup. Why is this interesting, though, I hear you say? Because obviously you can get an XLR interface with ease, but how many are you aware of that allow you to also capture video at the same time? So I am currently passing the audio and the video for this into Streamlabs OBS. So I'm not actually recording it on the camera as I normally would, and then doing a voiceover separately. It's all going into Streamlabs, so I can record and live stream at the same time, and you have the flexibility to do that. The thing that also gets interesting is that I can press a button on here, which will then turn off the microphone. So I can turn this microphone off and turn the camera mic on. I'm going to do that, and the sound quality will change ever so slightly because the camera mic isn't quite as good as this XLR, but just for demonstration purposes. So now I'm on the camera mic, which is on top. Now you can run both audio sources at the same time, and you can apply some ducking and noise cancellation settings so that the levels are leveled out and it sounds pretty good. But what you'll notice is the difference between... I'm going to switch back to the standard mic now, but what is interesting is that you can tweak some of that. So my plan is to have the camera that you can see here probably facing downwards with the microphone on it as my camera that's plugged into this device to enable me to do both recording, so you can record on the camera, and live streaming at the same time through this to give like a live unboxing experience. And then I have the power to be able to switch to this microphone when I want to talk to the camera and do a slightly more interesting thing. Where it also becomes interesting, and I'd recommend checking out the link in the description to the official setup guide for the box, because it talks about more of what you can do with it, is that you can also plug in other sources. So for example, you can use a headset. So this is the Beyerdynamic MMX 150, and it has a single 3.5mm connection, which I can plug into the back of the box, and there's a headset jack on it. So if I plug that in, I can then use that microphone instead. So now I'm using that mic, and this is the quality of that, and that's going along with the one on top of the camera, and I can also hear my own voice, which is horrible. You also have the option to run an auxiliary 3.5mm connection into the back of this. So for example, you could plug your phone in there, or maybe a streaming PC, or something that can output a 3.5mm connection, and then you could have audio running through there, so you could maybe have some music coming into the box, so you could basically route in different things. It also is capable of supporting phantom power for XLR microphones, so I've got that connected at the moment, so that means you get a boost if you've got something like this or a Shure SM7B that needs that extra power to get it lifted to deliver a better quality of audio. You have that option. There are some other things hidden away in here too. There are a couple of buttons here, for example, that you can press that give you audio effects. Like that. And then there's another one, there's other different things. It's also possible to press a button on here that does some voice changing things, so you can change between various different voice changing effects, which is kind of gimmicky, but it is an option. Now, this is generally presented as a presentation dock. That's what they pitch it as, so like a business presentation unit that you can use. You can plug a gooseneck XLR microphone into it, is how they pitch it, and then use it to do like Zoom calls and stuff. So I suppose if you're looking to do that, but for me it's much more interesting as this sort of setup. It's going to be great for me potentially. I can obviously use this to do this sort of content, create interesting content, or I can engage a bit more with my audience in a live way, while also still being able to capture footage that I can then use for proper full-blown videos. The fact that you can use an XLR microphone and a camera at the same time is obviously really powerful. Basic level, I could just plug my camera in there using the HDMI connection, improve the mic settings, make sure that's all set up properly, get the camera close to me and use that. You could use a lav mic as well if it had a 3.5mm connection. I could connect that to the box, for example, or to the camera and then output that via the HDMI source. So you don't need an XLR microphone, but obviously having this quality microphone set up, being able to deliver a better quality of audio is appealing, and having that all in one small package, because it really is just very, very small, and it will fit nicely in the space on your desk if you've got a limited space, or if you want to just use it as I am. Obviously, you could use it in different ways. You don't have to plug a camera into it. It could just be for XLR capabilities and then routing in other audio sources, that 3.5mm connection. So this is a fantastic device, I think, if you're looking to get into streaming or you want to improve how you're streaming and what you're doing with your content creation. And I certainly really, really like it. I think there are other offerings out there potentially that you could use. Something like Blackmagic's ATM Mini that I did a video on previously, but that is a lot more expensive. That does have the ability to have multiple cameras connected to it, though, where you can switch between those, and this only really does one. However, you can obviously set up different sources potentially in OBS to switch between. So if you're gaming, you could obviously have a different source for that and then switch to it and still be using the XLR microphone for the audio output. So there's lots of different options potentially with it. And the fact that you could plug in a headset microphone and use that instead of an XLR mic, there's plenty of different options. It's really, really interesting. This is a great product that I'm actually really excited for. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. Be sure to check out the description for more information and watch the video from Roland specifically on this device, because it goes into a bit more depth on what it can do. And I think that sort of tutorial explainer of the setup process really shows the power of it, because there's a lot of tweaking in terms of things like the noise cancellation, the echo, the compressor, the ducking effects and things like that. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do to improve the mic quality depending on what microphone you're using. But like I said, with this mic, it was basically plug and play, which is pretty fantastic. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.